Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the DOV Family Podcast. We have a few very special guests today, a few sisters of the Incarnate Word and Blessed Sacrament. So before I introduce them, a little bit about the IWBS sisters. They've been a pillar in our diocese for over a century. On November 6th, 1596, foundress Jean César de Matel, how was that, sisters?
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Was born in France. At age 28, just 28, she founded the order. And the house here in Victoria was founded a few hundred years later in 1866. Since then, IWBS sisters have served in a variety of ways, including education, healthcare, and ministries of prayer. Today we have three IWBS sisters here with us. Sister Kathleen Goyki, Superior General. Sister Stefan Marbach, who is the first General Counselor and Vicar for Religious in the diocese. And Sister Maria del Rosario Resendez, a.k.a. Sister Rosario, who is actually in formation with the sisters. So we'll talk about that. She's a sister that's in formation. And she serves at the Chancery as secretary to our very own Bishop Brendan Cahill. Welcome, sisters.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for making time for this. This will be a lot of fun. So, sisters, we have some questions from fifth graders in our Catholic schools we're going to save for the end. So those will be fun. Those I didn't let you preview. But we'll start with the scripted ones. So, sisters, let's begin with your callings. How did each of you hear the call to serve God as a sister, and specifically the call to serve as an IWBS sister? Whoever wants to go first.
Okay. In reflecting on the question that you sent, I was really overwhelmed by the fact that God truly had a plan for me all along, and I didn't see it until sometime, upon reflecting back, I just see how all along there was the call, and a lot of it had to do with the family life that I had, because I was very blessed with Christian Catholic parents who practiced Catholicism. Mm-hmm. And in our home, there was not a pressure to go to Mass on Sundays or recite the Rosary or whatever, but it was highly encouraged. But you knew if you lived in that household, come Sunday, you went to Mass. Mm-hmm. It was just a given. And it wasn't you children go, but our parents went too. Mm-hmm. And so that was a beautiful example. And they were so nurturing and loving. Mm-hmm. And so their example was so beautiful, and we had a very happy home. Mm-hmm. We still are very much bonded and very close as a family. And mm-hmm. so that's been a real blessing. They've supported me all through life too, as I have tried to support them. I'm the eldest in a big family. And when it was time for me to start first grade, the pastor of the parish, who was a good buddy of my dad, asked, well, where is she going to go to school? And so he said, well, it'll have to be a public school because I can't drive all the way to Selma, which is on the about 16 miles out of San Antonio. He worked in town, and he said, and Mom has to take care of the little ones. So and the pastor kind of listened, and he said, yeah, and there are other families around here too that can't because it was a rural community. So what the pastor did, he got a bus, bought a bus for the parish, went out on the outskirts of the parish, and I was able to go to Catholic school at Our Lady of Perpetual Help in Selma, where our sisters are still stationed today.
Wow.
And so from day one all the way through 8th grade, I was taught by the Sisters of the Incarnate Word and Blessed Sacrament, who were the only ones on the staff. So we had sisters all the way through. Mm-hmm. And from first grade on, I fell in love with them, with their life, with their example. And I just had deep within my heart, I wanted to be like them. I wanted to do that. And of course, in those days, I'm the eldest of us over here, as you probably can tell. Been around for quite a number of years. Actually, I've been professed for 62 years.
Wow.
And so at that time in the church, if you really wanted to do something in the church, a nun was the way to do it. A sister was the way to do it.
Right.
You know? And so when I got to 8th grade and was encouraged by the sisters and the priest all along, and decided to enter religious life, I had a lot of support. Mm-hmm. And in those days, it was like the minor seminaries that we still have today. If you wanted to enter as a candidate in high school, if you had the desire to be a sister, they would take you in high school, and then we would go home in the summers and try it out. And then so I did that. I went to high school at Nazareth Academy, came here to Victoria, and would go home in the summers. And then when I was 19, I made first profession. Now, along the way, right before I entered those years, there were some, times when I decided I don't know if I want to do this, and discernment. But I remember one time I saw the sisters fussing. I thought they were fussing among themselves. That was, in junior high. And I went home that night and I said, Mom, I don't think I'm not going to join that community. I don't think they love each other. And she said, well, why? And I said, well, they were fussing. They were fussing at each other. And she just, we stood there a minute, and then she looked at me and she said, one thing you got to remember is that the nuns belong to the human race like everybody else, and they're not angels. Just remember that. Mm-hmm. And I won't go into that right now. that came in very handy many times.
Community life, right? Community life.
When that, I thought, I got to remember what Mom said. She was a smart woman. Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, that's and then there was no. When it was time to decide, I had relatives that were in other orders in San Antonio, and they wanted me to join there. But for me, there was no, I didn't have to discern that at all. Mm-hmm. I knew the spirit, I knew the charism, I knew the Nest Sisters, and so Incarnate Word Blessed Sacrament in Victoria was the way to go.
Beautiful. I'm sure both your stories, it was just super smooth, whole way, IWBS, right?
Oh, yes.
I still haven't got at the end.
I know.
Well, I was going to start off by saying mine is very simple. There was no hitting over the head. There was no apparition.
Yep.
But God was clear.
Beautiful.
And I'm very happy.
Awesome.
Well, mine too. My family was very religious, very Catholic. One of the things, we had a relative who was a cloistered Dominican sister in Lufkin, Texas, and we would go visit her periodically during the summertime, not necessarily every summer, but maybe every other summer or so. And I enjoyed going to visit her, but she was behind a grill. They never went home. They never went out of that convent area. And so, I don't know if it was kind of my father thought, well, I'll follow along with that, but I knew I couldn't keep quiet that long, so. Anyway, I'm an adopted child. I was born in Ireland, and when my parents adopted me, my mother made a promise that if God would allow them to adopt a child, that she would make sure that they had a Catholic education. And so we did. We started, my brother and I, who's also adopted, went to San Jose Mission. They had a Catholic school, and the sisters came from California. They were the Immaculate Heart of Mary sisters. And they came there many years. I think it was up to my 5th or 6th grade year. Then they could no longer do that. They didn't have the people or the sisters to send all the way to Texas. They had other places nearby that they needed to take care of. So my mother began searching for a school, and so she found one. I went to St. Lawrence in San Antonio, and that was by the Schoenstatt sisters. They have a mother house in Rockport, And so I went there, and I was happy. And the sisters invited us to go to, the girls, to go to Rockport. And so I went, and my parents let me go. And then, I went on. And then one morning at my 7th grade year of school there, probably a week before school was out, there was a little message at my place. And it said, on the last day of school, there will be a surprise for you. That was a way to get me excited, because I was curious. I'm still a very curious person. And so I pestered her, but she wasn't going to let it out until that day. Well, that morning, the last day of school, the message was, I registered you at Blessed Sacrament Academy, which was also in San Antonio, because that's where I grew up. And I thought, my 8th grade year, and this is a surprise? I wasn't too happy or too excited. But anyway, I went. And I enjoyed it. And that's where our sisters, Incarnate Word and Blessed Sacrament, because that is our school. And it was an all-girls school at that time. I think it was from 7th and 8th, or 6th, 7th, and 8th, I believe, to the high school, to 12th. So I went there, and I enjoyed the sisters. And there was one sister that was really, I have to say, that was responsible for my vocation and encouraged me, and that was Sister Mildred. She was, I just enthralled by her knowledge, by her happiness, by the way she treated us, and that was with all the sisters there at the school. I went there my 8th grade year and my freshman year in high school, and then after that is when I just asked my parents if I could enter the convent. So I entered at 16, which was different because most of the people were still entering, like Sister said, right after 8th grade.
14, 15.
So later on, I found out, as you look back, my mother had a role in my vocation, because she told me this story years later, and she said, I moved you to Blessed Sacrament Academy because those sisters there, they were nice, but they're too serious, and I didn't want you to become one of them.
Wow.
So, you see the hand of God, like Sister said, the providence of God within this. And there was something there with those sisters that drew me, their happiness, the way they lived their life, the way they treated us was captured my attention and my heart. And I remember one summer sitting there before my freshman year or sophomore year, I guess, and I'm thinking, I want something. There's something missing. There's something I want. And it dawned on me, I want to be a sister just like them. And so here I am.
Beautiful. How many years as a sister now?
48.
Right.
Well, I'm from Bay City, Texas, and so that's in the Diocese of Victoria. My family, growing up, my family's a Catholic family, but we were not a very religious family, I guess you can say, so I didn't have that background. But I know growing up, I did feel called to become a nun, a sister, and I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know the first step because I didn't know any sisters. Now, I didn't know at that time the Incarnate Word sisters were also in Bay City, but they were in Holy Cross, and I belonged to Our Lady of Guadalupe. And so I never saw them. And so, when you don't know anything about becoming a sister or the steps, it's easy to put that in the back burner, right? You don't have to think about it so much. And so I did up until The Passion of the Christ came out in 2004. And I remember watching that movie, and I remember the scene that's pretty much at the end when Mary's holding Jesus after they bring him down from the cross. And she holds him and she looks out into the audience, and it's like if she's saying, look what he did for you, what will you do for him? And I felt like she was talking to me directly. And I was like, okay, well, it's time to, move myself into action and find out how it is, so I was not 14 years old or, I was 16, I was a little bit older. I started, doing research on the internet, which I always say, do not look online, because there's a website that they give you for you to put in your information. They don't actually even let you go into the full website until you put in all your information, because they're going to match you up with all the communities that will better fit you. Well, they match you up with all of them.
Oh, so you put in like a general website for lots of
Yes,
communities.
for Vocations. So like everybody from all over the United States.
They were probably so excited too.
Yes, they were
Yes.
sending me all this mail, all these
Oh my!
emails,
And
all
the
these
answer was
phone
right under
calls.
your nose. Yeah.
And I was like freaking out. I'm like, I don't know about this after all. And,
Wow.
So then I was like, let me do a more narrow search. So I searched, religious orders close to Bay City. And that's when the Incarnate Word Sisters came out, that they were in Victoria. And I went to go speak to Father Jerry at that time. He's the pastor at Our Lady of Guadalupe. And I told him about my interest to enter religious community, and he asked, he's like, well, don't you think you'd be more comfortable if you go into a community that's more Hispanic?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no. I said, Father, the only race I hate is the one I have to run, so I don't have to worry about that. And so he's like, okay. So he gave me a book, so I actually was able to look at the book. But I, emailed the Sisters of the Incarnate Word, which were not included in that first.
Oh my
initial.
goodness!
They weren't in that one. So then Sister Mildred is the one who emailed me back, and we set up a meeting and we met, and that's how I guess it started. Because I'm still in formation, but I remember, even when I was coming to visit, one of the steps is you have to go visit like 2-3 other communities, and in that time I thought I was going to be a Carmelite sister. I thought that was my life. That was how I was going to be, because those are the only other sisters that I had seen when I would visit my family in Mexico. I would see the Carmelite sisters. So I went to visit the Carmelites in Corpus Christi at that time, and I went to visit the Missionary Carmelites in Houston, and I went to visit the Ursuline sisters. And there was a group of them that was stationed in Houston, but I think they're mostly by the border. Well, at that time they were. I don't know, they maybe have moved since then. But I didn't feel at home at any of them, so I kept coming back to visit over here, and we would do the come and sees, and we would stay the weekend. And one time I remember that they had, because before all this, I had a strong devotion to the Passion of the Christ. That's the movie's the one that actually pushed me forward too because of that. But I remember one of the times that we were talking, we had our little gatherings, and they discussed the habit. And the habit is all reflecting the Passion. And the different colors, the white is the purity, the maroon is the blood that he spilled for us. We have blue that we wear, those are the bruises that he received. And if you wear the traditional modified, they also usually would wear like a brown belt, and those are the ropes that held them. And I'm like, okay, he's calling me here because it matches. And so that's why I felt like that's why the other ones didn't feel right, and that's why this one did, because this is where he was calling me. So that's why I'm still here.
Awesome. So you said when you were younger, you knew you had that call. Like, how young was that? How did you know this is what I think God might have for me?
I would want to say maybe about 6. And there's not much that you can go off of. You just see like the sisters that are portrayed on TV, so that's not giving you too much. I mean, they either go to the extreme that they're so violent, or to the other extreme where they're kind of crazy, like Goldberg.
Don't go online or don't go to TV. But you can go to movies and watch Passion.
Yes. So, but I do remember. I mean, my story, I guess, goes because I came to visit them, and then I stepped away for a little bit. But and so I had thrown myself into every single ministry that the church had to offer at that time. And but I was going to perpetual adoration. I had 2 hours a week that I would go. My hours like midnight to 1 o'clock in the morning.
2 hours a week.
Yes. And so I was going. I remember one time, I don't know, my life wasn't going the way I thought it should go, you know, and I was so upset inside the chapel where we had Eucharistic adoration, and my partner would always quit, so I was always there by myself. And I remember praying and asking Jesus, what is it that you want? I'm giving you everything, and my life is still not where I think it should be. It's not going right. Everything, it doesn't feel right. I don't feel fulfilled. What is it that you want? And I heard a sigh come from the monstrance, and I heard a voice say, child, because our little siders are called child. He said, child, why haven't you come to me yet? And it was then that I knew that I was supposed to come.
Wow.
But since I had kind of like dropped the sisters at the first time around, I like stopped communication completely with them. I didn't think they were gonna want me back.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of just sent a little email to one of my friends that was in formation at that time, and I asked her, do you think that it's possible? And as you can see, it was.
Mm-hmm. That is an awesome story. Well, thank you all for sharing. I just have to mention, because it comes up in so many conversations on vocation journeys, the importance of adoration, time in adoration, because Father Christopher, that was part of his journey for sure. Father James explicitly mentioned it. So hearing the Lord's voice in silence and adoration. So now let's talk about current life, a day in the life. You know, you answered the call, you jumped in, you had some advice from wise parents. What is a day in the life like for an IWBS sister? What is community life like? What might surprise us about community life?
I started last time, so
Okay.
somebody else needs to start.
I knew she looked this way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, our life, you know, it begins early, you know, no matter, I actually get up at 10 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
and I do that so I can start my day with my personal prayer. 30 minutes of just quiet time with the Lord. Of course, I have a cup of coffee,
Mm-hmm.
I have to say. And then we have our communal prayer, where we come together to say the Divine Office, morning praise, and we have Mass together. Then, of course, we, you know, there's meals in there. There's, you know, we have breakfast, we have the noon meal, and we have supper. After breakfast, most of us have ministries. Probably all of us do. Some type of ministry, be they in our convent in-house, what we call in-house ministries, congregational ministries, or we have those like Sister Rosario that go out of our convent and have ministries at other places. And we even have, like Sister mentioned, I think earlier, that we still have sisters in Selma, and we still have our school in San Antonio, Blessed Sacrament Academy. It's no longer an all-girls high school, but it functions as a child development center, parents academy, and then we have a charter high school on the property also, plus I believe a Jewish counseling service.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's, so we have people doing various ministries of all types, including our health care. We have what you would probably say comparable to a rest home on our second floor wing, where we take care of our elderly sisters there. We have 24/7 nursing care, and they too, their ministry is prayer. And you know, as I walk down that hall, you see them in the chapel, you see them in their rooms with their eyes closed, with a rosary in their hand, with a Bible maybe, and you know they're praying. And that, to me, is, I was thinking about it the other day as I walked by and I saw some sister in the chapel just sitting there in front of the Lord, and I thought, that is why we can do what we do. You know, it's a powerful witness, you know, to all of us. And as I said, we have various ministries that we do. You mentioned teaching. We have health care. We have parish ministries. Sister, you mentioned, is the secretary to the bishop. People work at parishes. So it's on universities, colleges, sabbatical programs. So it's multi, wherever we can touch lives
Mm-hmm.
and bring the incarnate word.
Mm.
In the evening after supper, if time permits and we don't have other commitments like meetings, or if you're at school, there's a lot of times there's games that you attend and all of that. We gather together, you know, in different, we have different communities within the convent that I live at, Incarnate Word Convent. So we have the formation community where Sister resides, and we have the healthcare community, and they gathered for meals, and in the evening you'll find some of them watching TV or just visiting together. And we have, there's another group that meets on second floor, and they watch TV and visit together. And then there's a bigger group of us that in our larger community room that where we watch people watch TV. And then there's some of us that play cards. And we won't say some of us are lucky and some of us are not. Some of us are called losers.
That's me with cards too. So.
And some of us are winners. So anyway, we have a lot of fun teasing and joking with one another. And then in the evening, it's usually around an hour, maybe depending on how much time you have. Sometimes we have to go back and maybe finish up work that we haven't finished, or get ready for the next day, whatever. And then we kind of wind down. We start our day with prayer, and we end our day with prayer. And it's our private prayer where we give thanks and praise to God for the day that He's given us, and ask Him for the graces for the next day. So that's kind of in a nutshell from. I don't know if y'all have anything.
No, I think that's pretty much the daily. It's too early. We have to wait till
That's
Jesus.
early.
That's what somebody. But God is not even awake yet. That's why I have coffee.
And is there daily mass together in your chapel? Because it's a beautiful chapel. I mean, I couldn't believe it the first time I went in there, how beautiful the chapel is. And another question I have about it is, do you have assigned seats? Because I see the little drawers.
Yes, we do
Okay.
have assigned seats, assigned pews. So, and those drawers are like our personal space. That's where we keep our devotionals or our prayer book and the missilettes that we have missilettes, or like extra things that we may need some days, like I have a shawl in there, in case it gets too cold. But yes, we have daily mass there at that chapel, and those are our assigned areas.
We actually have 2 daily masses. We have one downstairs that's earlier.
Oh, okay.
For the sake of those who go out, some have to leave at 7:45 or 7 o'clock. So we have mass at 6:20 Monday through Friday, and then at 8:30 Saturday and Sunday. And then there's a healthcare mass at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
So, and that can be for anyone. So if someone should choose or was out late and want to go to the sleep later, then they have an opportunity to go to the 10 o'clock with the healthcare sisters.
All right. And
So we have a full-time chaplain.
okay.
Now, this is Incarnate Word Convent. Now, on the missions, the different missions, their schedules vary.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one thing I know about community life, I think, Sister, you mentioned, Sister Rosario, you mentioned watching The Chosen together. Was there a group that watched that? So
That
they do
was the
different things like
community. We
awesome.
watched The Chosen together.
Awesome. Okay, so we got to talk about some of your titles because they sound really cool. So, Sister Kathleen, you are the Superior General. What responsibilities come with this role, and what was it like to become a leader in your community? How did that change your day-to-day life, becoming the Superior General?
I like to say congregational leader, because I definitely don't think I'm superior to anybody. So, although that I know that's the official title within you read our constitutions, that is the title that's given. What is it like to be Superior General? It has its blessings and it has its challenges. For when I became that, I had that title. Well, I actually have to tell a little story. I was 6 years before that. I had the title Sister Stefan has right now. I was the assistant, and she was the Superior General. And then this last
And
chapter,
they would say superior to what?
we have lots of friends. We have lots of friends. So we actually just switched places in that sense of a role. But the responsibilities are very awesome. You become the voice of the congregation, and you become the face of the congregation. You're a lot of times asked to represent the congregation at formal gatherings. We belong to our congregation belongs to several national organizations. For example, the Leadership Conference of Women Religious, LCWR. We belong to the Religious Formation Conference. So we have people that are on that. We belong to the National Vocation. So you have groups that you belong to nationally that a lot of times you're called to attend meetings. Before the pandemic, you actually went to meetings. Now a lot of it is Zoom. So I've become very proficient at the use of a computer and the use of Zoom. I have to say there's an attitude that is what is the best for the total being, for the total congregation. That has to be my focus when making decisions. I try very hard to look at what is the good for all. We have a team. Sister Stefan is on their leadership team. Sister Claire Underbrink is on the team, and then there's two of them in the San Antonio area, Sister Stephanie Marie Martinez and Sister Leonita Barón. So we're a team of 5, and then we have Sister Andrea Hubnik, who's our, we could say, treasurer general. She's does the finances of the congregation. And then there's a secretary that is appointed. The others are all elected by the congregation. And our responsibilities, we have a chapter every 6 years. And the 6 years at that time, there is a chapter of election where the leadership is elected. And then we have what we call a chapter of affairs, where we meet and discuss the future of our congregation and where we want to be and what we want to do. And they're called enactments. And those enactments, we are charged, it's our responsibility, the leadership team, to carry those out. And for example, we had several this last time. The big one was the reunification of our congregation with 8 other congregations. And we are a congregation of 50 right now. We would join with 7 other congregations. 3 of them are in the United States, Corpus Christi and Cleveland, and there are 5 others in Mexico. So we would be going from a small little group to an international group. So it's a process where you meet and discuss, and we have a group. Each congregation that is in this process has a representative. And Sister Stephanie Marie Martinez is our representative, and they go to meetings, and they've been working on the Constitution, for example, for the whole group. And so that will be put out in the near future to our sisters, so they get a chance to look at it and give input. So it's a very serious process, a very exciting process for all of us, and it's a very unknown process because none of us know the future and what it all entails. But it's one that we felt very strongly that we needed to be a part of because we all have the same charism, and so and it's we earnestly all believe that Jean wanted this, that we would all be one. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the big things that we are working on currently. We also made a directional statement that says that we're called to be authentic, contemplative women and stewards of the earth who bring a compassionate, listening ear and a presence to our world by standing in solidarity with the voiceless, the vulnerable, those affected by violence, and those hungering for spiritual and moral witness. So in all that we do, be it our ministries that we are assigned or elected to those that we even volunteer out in the front, it all goes with this directional statement. We also, during the 6 years prior to this chapter, we were working on a new directory. And so it became our job to we approved the directory, and we had to make sure that it got into everybody's hands, and that it became our official directory. And then we have four lamp groups, right? Four lamp groups that are, and LAMP is an acronym, and I knew I'm going to go blank when I try to say what it is, so y'all help me out.
Leadership and membership partnership.
Right. These sisters help us in carrying out various works of our congregation. We have one that does the looks at not properties. What is yours? It was properties, right? We have one that works on justice issues. We have one that does spirituality and community life, and I'm missing one. My mind is blank. We're all blank.
I don't know.
But anyway, they help us. And that's what she said. Their leadership and partnership to help us carry out the directives, to help us carry out our mission and charism. Mm-hmm. Besides that, it's the day-to-day. The sisters who may come with exciting news, mm-hmm. Of successes, of something that has happened to them that's special. It's the Jubilee celebrations, the profession ceremonies. All of those are great times in the life of our congregation. And then there are those sad times where you go talk about death, where you have burial. During the pandemic, I remember being asked by the advocate what was a challenging time, and it was that was one of the hardest times for me, because we had about, I think it was 4 sisters that died during that time, and we couldn't bring the families in. We couldn't bring the body back into the chapel once it left. We could only bring it to the cemetery, and so it was a hard time, because you had to limit who got to go, and that was a very challenging for him. Mm-hmm. And the sisters come with their needs, be they health needs, serious illnesses, to communal needs, community ministry needs. So it's being that listening presence and trying to work with them to help them to continue on. Healthcare, we have a number of our sisters there, and they're a blessing. Like I said, they give me the strength. Their prayers, I should say, give me the strength, and I enjoy them. You go there, and on a given day, they can make you laugh, mm-hmm. when you're maybe feeling low. So that's just some of mine.
That is a lot of responsibility, sister. It's really, interesting for me to learn more about the structure and how the meetings take place, the different committees and groups. So thank you for sharing that. Now, Sister Stefana, you were Superior General previously then.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, and now you have a title that I have to admit sounds a little cooler. Is First General Counselor.
I like the way you had the question, that the title sounds really cool.
Yes.
I told Sister Kathleen that I hope it means that I'm pretty cool.
You're pretty cool, sister. You're very cool.
Actually, the term General Counselor, or First General Counselor, it's also called assistant. Mm-hmm. And so we have 4 counselors on our leadership team, mm-hmm. and as first counselor or assistant, I am, according to our Constitution, I reside at the headquarters where the Superior General and our Generalate reside. And so that in the event that sister's not there, or is in another country or whatever, or not just there, or something else comes up, then I need to fill in. Mm-hmm. And also my role is to be there to assist her in whatever needs arise for the total congregation, to help us to serve more in the capacity of we and not I. You know, the whole thrust of the community, and to be there for her. But what I have taken upon myself as my really serious obligation, and I told her I was going to say that. You know, I think I really need to help keep the Superior General perking. So I make sure she gets her coffee breaks.
There you go.
With some good, strong coffee.
Yes,
So,
yes.
You know, so I feel that in doing that, I can help her keep perking. I perk better. You know, get the moods go up, you know, and we can keep the congregation
Perking, so there's no fussing.
That's right.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
I'm gonna start using both of those words more, sister.
And so my tasks basically are congregational tasks, and assist where the help is needed, when it's needed. And I don't know if liaison's a good term, but it's also a link between the sisters. Her schedule is so full that I try to be in fact, my office is right next to hers. Try to be available, whether it's through phone calls or sisters coming in, to assist in making the connection if they can't get to Sister Kathleen. You know, try to do there and be there and do that. And also, in my capacity there, I serve as an ongoing formation director. And that means if there's anything, opportunities that are out there for our sisters, from initial formation all the way through, I make those opportunities known, communicate them to the sisters, and I also line up the retreats that we have in March and in the summer, whether they're preached retreats or individually directed retreats. Bring the directors in, and then help with the community days that we have 3 times a year for all the sisters. And so I'm kept busy, and I enjoy it. And but basically that's what I do, and I don't get bored, so I must be busy enough.
Yeah.
You know, and then am I supposed to address that?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So another type you have is Vicar for
Yeah.
religious. Is that a diocesan?
That's
Okay,
diocesan, right.
great.
That's I forget how many years it is now. I think it's 4 or 5. That Bishop Brendan asked me if I would serve as a vicar for religious here in the Diocese of Victoria. And what it really is, it's a liaison or a link between him and the different religious congregations in the diocese, sort of helping the communication going. If they're especially if one of the communities, or if we're trying to collaborate between the communities, I try to do that collaboration and then get to the bishop, so he doesn't have to do that individually or keep imposing on his secretary. You know, I have a great compassion. I hope you heard that.
Yes.
Also, one of the things that he asked me to do is my job description, if a new community comes in, and it's men or women, this is religious, consecrated religious, that come in to help them get settled, to make sure that they find lodging, and if there's anything that they need to know when they've come in. And of course, our diocese is relatively small, so mine is it's a very part-time ministry, but I try to be available when that's when it's called for, or if the bishop asks something, or if I think he needs to know something. He's usually on top of everything. He's got a good secretary. Then one of the things that I think helps me, helps the sisters, and helps the bishop is I belong to a regional organization and a national organization of vicars of religious. They call them different titles. Some say counselors, some say delegates, some say, they have different titles, but most dioceses call it vicar of religious. But by going to these meetings or by seeing them on Zoom, being on them by Zoom, we have a lot of good connections, and we get the latest information from Rome, especially regarding religious. So I feel that the more that I'm in the know, I can give accurate information to the bishop should he, ask any questions about it.
Yeah.
And it gives me an opportunity to chat with the bishop too.
Yes.
So it's nice.
Oh, wow, Sister Stefan, you are very busy as well, and it was beautiful to hear
It's fun.
Yes,
It's fun.
and beautiful to hear how you support Sister Kathleen too, and just making sure little things like she has her coffee, so she's perking.
I have to say that when I was serving in her position that she has now, she was a great she was a great help to me also.
Wow.
And I have to add, every time I go someplace, she reminds me that I have to be careful and that I have to come back in one piece.
Wow.
Because I did that to her.
Wow. It worked. All right, Sister Rosario, your turn.
Okay.
So you're still in formation. So could you start by walking us through the stages of formation and why you're already called a sister and you're in formation?
Okay. Well, we start off by coming to first, making contact with the sisters, right? And then when both of us, decide that we want to go ahead and continue on, the first step is called affiliate, and that stage could last from anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. At that time, you're still, look at her, she was my formation director.
I learned on that.
And so I'm all like, am I saying it right? But,
Is that when her hair started turning gray?
So for 6 months to 2 years, we're still living at home. We come to visit, like maybe once a month we'll come to visit, or we'll talk on the phone. So we're like more contact with each other. The next step is called apostolancy. And there, I think in each step we receive something though, right? When we become an affiliate, we receive the miraculous medal. And then when we become a postulant, we receive the Christian prayer book.
Yes.
And that part is also 6 months to 2 years. And you can still live at home. You're coming to visit more continuously. You're paying so you're still working. Your money still belongs to you. You have any debt, you're paying that off. After that stage, and is the novitiate. And our novitiate is 2 years. Our first year is the Canonical Year, which is you just stay at the convent during that time. It's a time of intense prayer and study. You're no longer working. You do receive the habit at that time that you receive a white veil. And the second year of the novitiate is called the Apostolic Year, right?
Yes.
And then that year you're...
I was going to add, you had talked about the title sister. Why we
Oh, yeah, you get it there, right?
Right, yeah. Then yes, we give the title sister, and they get, now they keep a form of their name. We used to choose, we used to have what they call choices, but we never got them.
But they do ask that, we kind of keep our names. So my legal name is just Rosario.
Okay.
And my sister name is Maria del Rosario. But so we get our sister name and we get the habit to get the white veil. The next year is the Apostolic Year, and that's where we go and work on a mission somewhere. And we're trying to find balance between prayer life and ministry, so we're working on...
Is that when you became the secretary to the bishop?
I did,
Yeah.
That was unheard of at the time that a novice became the bishop's secretary,
Right.
so it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
But then after that, we have 5 years of temporary vows. So you take and that's when you receive the black veil, right? And so right now I am on my 5th year of temporary vows. After that, then you do final profession, and you receive the ring.
That's correct.
You'll have a ring.
You got
You'll
it.
have a ring.
So that's coming up this coming year. Yeah, August 8th, right?
August 6th.
6th, okay. Woo. August 6th, save the date. That is exciting.
Very much so. Very excited.
Yes, there'll be much rejoicing that day. So sister, since you're Sister Rosario, I have to keep to specify the sister. I'm not around 3 sisters at a time very often. Now, Sister Rosario, you're in formation. What do you think are some misconceptions out there? You mentioned TV, different portrayals of religious life, but what do you think are some misconceptions about entering into formation to become a sister?
I think, I get asked a lot, by different girls, about religious life, and I always have to correct certain things. One of them is if they have to be 100% sure when they come in. And I always tell them, no, we're never 100% sure of anything, right? So it's like, no, dude. And as you can see, our formation period is very long, so you can tell within any of those years that if this is still meant for you, if if this is the life that you're being called to. Another one would be that they're mistreated when they enter into religious life, and I can say for sure that that's not the case. If we have disagreements and things like that, that's different, but it's not like it was back in the days, and we have to stop, I guess, getting our opinions or our information from movies. Right, yes. Because there is a fascination with the Catholic faith and movies. I mean, it's amazing, right? How many movies? But anyway. Yes, and they're not, the Catholic Church is always portrayed usually as the villain. Right, something's not good usually. Unless it's an exorcism movie, because they know who to call. Exactly. It's all fun and games until you get an exorcism, right? But, so it's like, if you're going to look at a movie, make sure it's coming from a Catholic publisher or a Catholic, do research on the movie before you take it into your heart. So they don't treat you it's not like that. Even the vows, before the vow of obedience was like, oh, you have to do everything that they tell you and you have no say. Now, the vows is more of the vow of obedience is a dialogue. Let's talk about this. Let's bring them to see where God is calling you. Not you're just going to do this because I say so. Yeah. So those are the questions that I usually get asked a lot when it comes to formation. I think the vow of obedience is a beautiful one. It's something that our culture struggles with, obedience, because everyone wants to be the captain of their own ship, so to speak. But our culture could use a lot of obedience nowadays. And they say that the vow that women struggle the most with is obedience. I tell you, it's a virtue. That was something I learned recently. It's actually a virtue of obedience. It's a powerful virtue. So anyway, one more question for you, sister. You're bishop's secretary. What's something you do as secretary you didn't expect when you were taking on that role? What's been the surprise? Well, first, a big surprise was I did not realize that every single job that I held before this one would actually come into, I needed that experience for this. God uses everything. And he wastes nothing. Even when I worked at McDonald's, that woman has actually, because it's like, it was setting me up for that. Yeah. And like I said, it was unheard of that a novice would be the bishop's secretary. So that in itself was new, and it was surprising for us that he gave me that opportunity. I think another thing, because I've worked at a lot of offices, so I did a lot of office work. Yeah. I think what I did not expect was how open he is to allow me to lead the Chancery spiritually, I guess you can say, in a way. Yes, and I'm very grateful for that as a Chancery staff member, all the things you've done to help us pray in the building. And so that's, I wasn't expecting that, but I've really loved that. Yeah. That is beautiful. Well, thank you for answering the call, sister. I can't imagine your reaction. You answer the call, and all of a sudden, you're bishop's secretary. I know. What? Oh, that is great. So, one more question before we get to we'll maybe do a little more rapid fire when we get to our fifth graders. So, vocation discernment. Families, I hope and pray that you just always help your children discern their vocation, whatever it might be, to trust God. Because whatever he has is the best plan possible. So, sisters, what would you tell someone who is discerning their vocation as well as those helping young people discern their future?
One of the things is to be open. You can't just judge, like Sister said. There's so many out there on TV and media. We can be portrayed as all kinds, from the real to the unreal. So be open and willing to find the correct information. Be a risk taker.
Be curious.
Be curious, that's right. And above all, pray, pray, and pray. I can't say that enough. And realize it is very rewarding. I think all of us try to say that we are very blessed with in being called, realizing it's a gift from God. And then in our ministry, yes, there's ups and downs to any life, really. But it is a blessing, and it's very rewarding. That's fun.
You want me to go ahead? I would say follow your heart. And I can't emphasize enough, pray. I know, just personally speaking, from probably 5th or 6th grade on, I would say the prayer, "O Mary, I place my vocation and my salvation in your hands." And I've always had a strong devotion to Mary. I think I got that from my grandmother. And then one of the, I think I have heard, at least some of the women that have been looking at religious life, or younger and older, they'll say, "But I'm not worthy. I'm not, I'm not worthy to." And no one is worthy, if we're going to check that. But it's, I think of the quote that's quoted a lot, it's, "God does not call the qualified. He qualifies those who are called." And so it's, Jesus takes care of who we are and how we enter religious life. It doesn't matter. God will fill the need. And I think, and then look around. I know they told you to look around. You mentioned that while ago, Rosario, or you were told to do that. I think it is important when you're looking for a religious community to look and see which one fulfills the desires of your heart, the deepest desires. And it is true, when you step into the community that you believe is the right one, you get a sense of feeling at home. It happens. I think, look around and then take the risk. And I know I speak for all three of us, is that it is a life of fulfillment, and it is a life where you're happy. And I know for myself, if I were to choose life all over again, or a vocation all over again, I would do the same thing.
I think what I would say is, do not be afraid if you are afraid. Because when even in Scripture, every time God called Moses, Jonah, everybody, they were scared.
Everybody was scared.
But He called them to something greater, and being that He's calling you is because He's going to give you the grace to get through it. And I also, say, look around. There's different communities. There's the cloister sisters. There's the sisters like us that work out within the community. Not work out, but work out.
We didn't talk about community life.
But we work amongst the people. There's some that wear habits, or some that, like the veil and the traditional modified habits. There's some that wear just, regular clothes. And they're still sisters. So, no, there's not one religious community that's better than the other one. It's what fits you, And like I said, I always go back to what Mother Teresa had told a young girl who had asked her, I think I'm getting the call, what should I do? And Mother Teresa answered, don't keep Jesus waiting. So that's like, if you're feeling it, if you're feeling it, just come and see, come and look. We're not gonna tie you up and put you in a room the first day you come. So it's like you're not making a commitment by just coming to look.
Thank you all for sharing. Our God loves us so much. He calls us to a life of adventure. There is joy in whatever call He has for us, whatever it might be. So thank you, sisters and parents. Remember, you are the primary vocation director of your home. You are the primary one that might know which school might have this impact, or how to take care of your children. So don't be afraid, because you are the only parents your kids get. You are the only ones that can help them. So God wants you to answer that call too. So thank you, sisters. It's exciting to think. I heard My sons have this book that my grandma gave them called Letters to Pope Francis from kids around the world. And last night we were just reading part of it, and one thing he wrote to one of the child is he loves seeing, whenever he sees children, he sees the future. And some of us might feel like our world, things aren't going so good, or look to our children as the future, and then let's take up our responsibility and raise them well and bring them to Christ and help them not be afraid by not being afraid ourselves to follow him. So, all right, soapbox moment over. Okay, so from the fifth graders now. These are a few from Sacred Heart in Hallettsville. What are your biggest challenges or difficulties you have had in your religious life? Some of you already talked about that.
Getting up in the morning.
Getting up in the morning.
Being on a mission that you really love, and then getting the assignment that you have to move on.
Mine.
Being Superior General. COVID, you
Yes.
talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, I did. It's being with the people that are hurting. I guess I'll say it that way.
Did you ever doubt or second guess your decision of your religious life?
Almost every day. But I mean, I think I had a friend to tell me, if you're not doubting, you're not discerning.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I did. I think I didn't really have any doubts along the way. I just kind of hopped along, moved along, and everything was going great. And then when it was right before final vows, the couple of days before, and it was so real. And I just felt like, if this congregation knows how I think, if I'm going to go crazy here. I'm going to, all these. It was the strangest thoughts that came to mind, but I was so convinced that I was trying to give the vocation to myself, that I really wasn't called. And it was during retreat before final vows. But the minute I went to the Superior General at the time, and I just said, I'm out of here. I think,
Wow.
it was very powerful.
Wow.
I think it was a real test. And so I told her, and she looked at me, and she said, that's the devil. She said, no person walks along in following their vocation as sincerely as I have observed you following yours, and then make a right turn. That can't be from God. Go pray. Go, she said, but I'm telling you. Well, and then I said, I don't have to go pray. I already know that I'm going to be okay. I just needed to get it out. I just needed you to know. I wanted to be authentic and let you know what I'm thinking and what I'm struggling with. It was kind of an integrity moment.
I'm glad you touched on that, sister, because it's important to realize that there will be distractions or resistance to us answering our calls. I mean, they happen on a day-to-day basis, so we be aware of that and guard against that. Have a good spiritual director, good relationship with our pastor to help us sort through those things.
I would have to say two things stand out in my mind. I remember, I think it was during my formation, I believe, and I didn't know too, whether I think that had been a particularly rough year, and I just thought, I can't do this. I'm not going to do it. And I remember somebody made this statement to me. They said, the Lord got you here. Now tell him to keep you here. And that's kind of been something that's always stuck in my mind. The other one was when my mother died. I really was angry at the Lord because she died on an operating table. And it wasn't supposed to happen, by all medical terms, but it did happen. It was a very traumatic time for me, and a very lonely time for me. So I just remember being angry at God, and I was ready to not have anything to do with him. But, he heard my prayer way back there. If you want me, you got me here. Now if you want me here, keep me here. So.
Beautiful. Okay, our next question. We talked about this a little bit, but anything you might want to add about what is your daily routine of praying throughout the day? Anything we missed from earlier, or we kind of got it all?
I think we did the same.
I think, like the praying throughout the day, it's kind of the sacrament of the present moment, which I think all of us, I know I strive for that. It's not being on my knees praying all day, not being in the chapel praying all day, but having my mind attuned to God with whatever I'm doing and living that moment
presence
the best
of God.
I know how. The
Mm.
presence of God.
Mm.
Our foundress has told us that we should be like a crystal vase, right?
Mhm.
That people should see Jesus through us. So I will say
Wow.
that the way we live our life should be a prayer as well.
Wow. Like a walking monstrance, I've heard also.
Mhm.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, now this next one's from St. Anthony in Columbus. I think we talked about this a little bit, but anything you want to add? At what age did you start thinking about this vocation, and who or what inspired you to make the decision?
I said like around 6.
Yeah,
Or what? That would be more complicated.
Yeah,
So,
lots of people.
Yes, I really don't have a direct answer for that.
And a
I would have
movie.
to just say the Lord.
yeah.
I would say probably in my eighth grade years, I would have been 14. So around that time, between 14 and 16, because I entered when I was a sophomore in high school. I just mentioned Sister Mildred's name. My mother definitely, my family. So,
Mhm.
and there was others throughout my life that have really helped me.
Mhm.
I think I started thinking about it, when I started first grade, second grade, I thought about it.
Mm.
And I had a grandmother that I prayed rosaries all the time. I think she prayed me, with vacation. But there was, among all the sisters were very special, really. But there was a Sister George who in junior high, she was always happy. She was principal of the school and taught full time, but she was always happy, and she would teach us singing, and she would give us all nicknames. She was so human, so
Mhm.
real, so much fun, and so that inspiration and then she would keep reminding me that I should really think about being a nun too. So
Mhm.
the fact that she would think that, then after a while I put it aside, but then it would keep coming back. So
Mhm.
I would say mine started probably seriously, like really thinking about it, even in 3rd, 4th, 5th, right in there that I started thinking about it.
Well, like we said earlier, Sister Stefan, about when you almost had that swerve right turn moment, but
Mhm.
it seems in vocation journeys there's a trajectory,
Mhm.
and you'll look back and see these little nuggets
Mhm.
along the way, and saying there's a consistency to it. So I'm not saying if you're out there and saying, "Oh, I've never thought about it," you can look in all these hints in your life. Do you love to serve others? Because I've how many stories of kids that played mass and things growing up, but anyway, a trajectory. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was there's the quote that I know is attributed to St. Augustine, but some maybe he'd say he didn't say, but someone said it, I think. The glory of God is man fully alive. We've heard that quote many a time, right? And I think about just in this conversation with three of you three are so fully alive. You're excited to just live life. You're curious. You're just excited to be here. And in our world today, a lot of people don't feel that way right now, especially the last couple of years. So just a testament to following God, you'll love life more too. You'll just be happy to be here. So, okay, 2 more. Last 2 from Our Lady of Victory in Victoria. This is a really good one. If you had an hour of time left to live, how would you spend it?
Well, there was that one little the saint. He's a young boy that he said that if he knew the world was ending, what would he do? And he said he'd still keep playing
Mm-hmm.
because we should be living our life ready for that. So
Yeah.
1 more hour, I think I will just be doing what I normally do.
Isn't that the gospel today too? That was
Yes.
today's gospel,
Yes.
the day we're
Mhm.
recording this.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and hopefully, I was living my life in the way that he will welcome me, if that was that.
That's probably a good daily examine question. Just anything you're doing, you think, am I wasting time or not? What if I only had an hour left to live? Is this a good thing to be doing? Yeah.
Well, since we don't know when that hour will be,
We should live
it's
that
living
way.
the present moment, the
Mhm.
sacrament of the moment,
Mhm.
as best we can,
Mm-hmm.
is what I guess I would hope I would be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's being that crystal vase, all that
Mhm.
Sister Rosario mentioned. Trying to recall that's who we're called to be, and when I first heard that, your answer is what came to mind, because I heard that story too. doing what I'm continue doing,
Mhm.
To the best of my ability.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, here's our last question: Is it hard to give everything up for Christ?
No, because when you have Him, you have everything.
That's good. There you go.
Boom. Mic
Amen.
drop
Ditto.
moment. I'm not going to drop it.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you, sisters, for this time. Thank you for all you've done. I'm a newbie to the diocese. I've only been here a couple of years now, but it is evident the roots of the diocese runs through the IWBS sisters. So thank you for all that you've done and are doing and will continue to do. Folks listening, you can go to their website to find out more about them and make a donation too, right? IWBS, Spirit General.
The daughters.
That's right.
The donation of the daughters.
Donate your daughter. Yes. Yes.
Donate
So-
your daughters.
That's right.
Yeah.
Daughters and dollars. No, please, daughters and dollars. Please pray for Vocations. Please pray for Vocations. Visit iwbsvictoria.org for more information about the sisters. You can reach out for prayers, and there are ways they can support you. You've helped many people with spiritual direction and discernment, and especially if interested in a vocation or know someone who might be, please reach out. And they have an amazing gift shop. I couldn't believe that gift shop first time I walked in there. As well as information about their Amor Meus Spirituality Center. So thank you, sisters. Would you mind closing us with a beautiful prayer?
There was a prayer here that I thought maybe,
Yes, okay.
and then we can.
Perfect.
This is a prayer to the Trinity. And so, once again, we are surrounded by our God and His tremendous love for each and every one of us. God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, you have called us to strengthen our mission of making the incarnate Word known and loved in the church of today and tomorrow. We ask for your continued blessing and guidance as we continue to embrace this journey. Praise be the incarnate Word in the most blessed sacrament.
Now and forevermore. Amen.